Good morning. Welcome to the Chris McCarthy Show. I had a little technical problem there, so I'm just going to jump right into it, folks. As someone told me, when in doubt, just start talking. And it seems to work. So, good morning. Listen, we're going to have an interesting show this morning. We're going to have Geoff Diehl will be giving us a call. He's at the State House, I believe, today, so we can't have him in studio. But we're going to have him give us a call at your request. Someone in the audience said, hey, I wonder if you could get Geoff Diehl on one of these days. So I think we can do that. So for you folks out there, we're going to have Geoff Diehl give us a call, and we're going to talk to him about what's going on with his U.S. Senate race. Geoff's running for the United States Senate as a Republican. There's a number of people in the race, but he's been at it the longest. He's currently a state representative up in the Whitman-Hanson area. He Republican, and he's seeking the nomination. I would say he's the Trump guy in the race. He was a Trump supporter. He's involved with the Trump campaign here in Massachusetts in the primaries, and he also did tank the gas. Which was ending the gas tax or ending the increase in the gas tax here in Massachusetts. He also kicked off his campaign here in New Bedford, one of the places he stopped. And I always like that when they come to New Bedford or Greater New Bedford as a statewide candidate to kick off their campaign. Sometimes we feel, people are ignoring us and they're not giving us kind of attention. So I like that when people start out being with their campaign here in the Greater New Bedford area. He was at the Pope's Islands there at the statue for Prince Henry the Navigator. And of course, he has a gasoline pump. At least he did at the time. I don't know if he's still bringing it around with him, but to symbolize his work on the gas tax, to roll back the gas tax. If you remember, that was a pretty odious bill. They were going to increase the gas tax, but then it was never going to stop. In other words, it was going to be indexed to the I think inflation or something. We have a crack tech team here. I appreciate that. So we'll have Geoff he's going to give us a call in a few minutes, and we'll speak with him about his campaign and how that's going. Because there's a couple other people in the race who've been here. Phil's had, I think, all of them now on his show, which is Beth Lindstrom, Geoff Diehl, and John Kingston. But I find Geoff to be very interesting because I'm going to bring him here on the radio here in a second. But one of the things about Geoff that I think most of you will find interesting is he worked in New Bedford at one time. He worked for Poyant Signs, and so that's pretty good too, right? When he gets to Washington, we won't have to tell him where New Bedford is. He'll already know he'd been coming here for years to go to work. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Geoff on. Good morning, Representative Diehl. How are you?
Great, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's great to be tied into New Bedford in a few different ways. A chance to serve them as a U.S. Senator, but also having worked at Poyant, a great third, actually almost fourth-generation company now that's done very well over the years for the people and with the people of New Bedford.
Yeah, it's a tremendous business, and as you say, it's done wonderful here for the area. So, Geoff, tell us, for those people who don't know, really why you're running for the U.S. Senate, why now and why you?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, the first thing is people need to know that I've been serving in the legislature for about 8 years up on Beacon Hill. I've come from the town of Whitman, on the South Shore, and my wife grew up in this town. We have two daughters. They're 16 and 11. We own a small business that she runs, and I used to work for Poyant Signs. I was on the finance committee in my town. I just felt like we had a state representative that wasn't voting in the best interest of the towns that I represent now, Abington, Whitman, East Bridgewater. So I ran against my opponent in 2010. I won a seat that nobody expected me to win. And then in 2014, I was able to be the lead on a ballot question to repeal the indexing of our gas tax in the state. We've now saved ourselves 4 different gas tax increases over the years because people ultimately saw the light and voted against what the legislature had done, which was to index our gas tax to go up every year automatically without a vote. And we proved that the money wasn't being spent where it should on Beacon Hill that was coming in, and they shouldn't be looking to us as basically ATM machines whenever they make bad decisions with our money. So I worked on a ballot question. We got thousands of signatures, over 120,000, with the help of tons of volunteers across the state, including New Bedford. And I ended up debating a few different mayors on the issue, Seti Warren of Newton, Kim Driscoll of Salem, and Joe Curatone of Somerville. Anyway, we won that issue in 2014 and saved taxpayers $2 billion. So, look, I have a track record of working for the people of Massachusetts, holding government accountable, and I'd like to go to Washington, D.C. to be their senator because I think, again, we're seeing a U.S. senator currently in place in Senator Warren who is more interested in raising her own profile to run for the White House in 2020 than serving the people of Massachusetts. And, I've been crisscrossing the state for the last almost 12 months now, talking to people, listening to them, and they all feel like Washington, D.C. is still stuck in the finger pointing and kicking the can down the road, and they're looking for someone to actually go down there and just work for them, not looking for higher office, just a chance to go down and serve the people of the state. And that's why I put my name out there, and now we have a convention in less than a month to determine who's going to be the Republican nominee. I'm really feeling good about my chances of winning this convention and winning the primary, and then going forward to be the nominee against Senator Warren.
We're speaking with Representative Geoff Diehl, who's running as a Republican for the United States Senate. Geoff, if someone is listening to us and they want to learn more about you or get involved in your campaign, what's your website?
Yeah, if people go to DiehlForSenate.com, and by the way, that's not spelled the way you might think. It's DIEHL, and then 4 is FOR, not the number. So Diehl for Senate, SENATE.com. And, if they go there, there's a couple things that can happen. They can click on boxes to be a volunteer. You can click to get a free bumper sticker sent to you. You can also click to have a lawn sign delivered to you when we're ready to have those out. You can also donate, of course, which is something that I would love to get the help. Many hands make light work. But you can also find links to my Facebook and Twitter account, which show where I am every single day on the campaign trail and let you know about where I'll be, and hopefully a chance for us to individually meet up and talk, because I know there's so many of your listeners probably are saying, I'd like to have a voice in what goes on in Washington, D.C., and I want someone who's going to listen to me, not lecture me. And that's what I'm all about.
Well, I like that. Geoff, just a couple of issues that are very important to my audience that I want to make sure that they understand where you are on those. So in this listening audience, of course, we regularly discuss the Second Amendment. We have a lot of sportsmen. In fact, there's 30 NRA-affiliated rifle clubs, gun clubs, right here in this listening audience, which I think shocks a lot of people when I tell them that. How are you on the Second Amendment and sportsmen?
Yeah, it shouldn't shock people. Massachusetts is a state that really, built on a strong tradition of gun ownership, legal, responsible gun ownership. We're the home to manufacturers of Smith & Wesson and Savage Arms. So, very vital to our economy. I have an A rating with the Gun Owners Action League, which is a Massachusetts-based organization that's endorsed me in my races for state representative. By the way, I should mention, I've run for the state legislature 4 times. I've been unopposed the last 2 election cycles because I think even the people of my district realize that I'm working for them every single day. But, I've got also an A rating with the NRA, and that's because I believe in the Second Amendment. I strongly support those people who consider the constitutional right to carry arms very important to themselves. And I think that, for me, my track record on voting against a gun bill in 2014 on Beacon Hill that was really onerous, it extended the unilateral suitability clause to long guns. I just thought that was the wrong way to go. And also, I'm totally opposed to the Attorney General Maura Healey's unilateral ban on the AR-15s. Look, that gun shoots 1 bullet with 1 pull of the trigger. That's right. The same as any handgun or revolver. So I'm here to defend your Second Amendment rights as well.
Well, I think most people in my audience are comforted by that. Geoff, so we have Sheriff Hodgson on here. I know he's supporting you. We have the sheriff on here quite a bit, and he, of course, is very active on the immigration issue. Tell people how you feel about illegal immigration and what your thoughts are.
Well, Sheriff Hodgson has been one of my greater allies on the Senate campaign trail. He and I just did a press conference with Maureen Maloney. Her son, Matthew Denise, was killed by someone who was here illegally with a criminal background who should have been deported. But unfortunately, Massachusetts is starting to see this sanctuary city movement and this attempt to make it a sanctuary state. I am fully opposed to that because what it basically does is creates a situation where local law enforcement is ordered not to work with federal law enforcement officials to identify and deport those who are here illegally. And specifically, they're targeting those with criminal backgrounds that should not be in our country and who committed crimes. So I'm with Sheriff Hodgson on his belief that any politician who's elected and supports Sanctuary City should not only lose their job as an elected official because they're breaching their oath of office, but also should be subject to prosecution. I think that you are breaking federal law when you knowingly create a situation where law enforcement federally can't do their job, and you tie the law enforcement's hands in trying to get those people who've committed crimes out of our country. If they're not even taking the effort to become citizens and then committing crimes, I have no idea why we are trying to harbor them in these cities.
I think people will be very, very encouraged to hear that. We're speaking with Geoff Diehl, who's running for the United States Senate, running as a Republican to get the Republican nomination, and then to face presumably Liz Warren, the incumbent. How do you feel about the taxes? I know you worked very hard to stop and to roll back the gasoline tax. What are some of your thoughts when you get down there to Washington on how to handle people's money and taxes?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, with the gasoline tax, I found an area where we were wasting a lot of money. We were spending 4 times the national average to maintain 1 mile of road in Massachusetts annually, $675,000 a year versus the national average of $145,000. And look, that's just one example of where government is spending money and they don't let people know what's going on with it, where that money's going. There are so many areas of government where we could do a better job and be more efficient. And I think that's why you've got to look at where you can cut spending before you start thinking about raising taxes. And again, getting back to illegal immigration, in Massachusetts, $1.8 billion a year out of our $40 billion budget goes to cover the cost of those who are here illegally. That money comes from funds that go towards housing that could potentially go towards citizens before they're coming to people here illegally. Same thing with education. We are having to pass, a lot of towns passing 2.5 overrides, Prop 2.5 overrides to fund their schools when, if we just cut that money going somewhere else where it shouldn't be spent, we would have that easily available. And I think nationally the number is $113 billion annually covering the cost of those here illegally. So I believe in building the wall. I believe in allowing law enforcement to do their job as far as trying to protect us as citizens. But at the same time, I also think that government has the responsibility to look where we can save money, and that before we ever decide to raise taxes. I just know that. Plus, I will add one other thing, Chris, and that is that the tax reform plan that passed just a few months ago is giving businesses now a corporate tax reduction from being the highest in the industrialized world to now at a level where they are taking that money and they are giving bonuses. We've seen these $1,000 bonuses to employees. We've seen pay increases. We've seen new hiring. We've seen companies bringing money back from overseas like Apple and reinvesting in the United States. In fact, Apple is looking potentially at Massachusetts for secondary headquarters, which is fantastic. And all of that is basically driving up wages. And when you basically lower taxes, you allow businesses to hire more people. You create the broader base of tax potential. And that's really where the money that comes in for government should come from, is lowering taxes, and that brings in that revenue that we need to operate our states. Look at Connecticut, perfect example of a state that has raised taxes to the point where they're not even bringing in the revenue that they got from the previous year. They're driving capital out of the state, whether it's wealthy people out of the state or driving businesses out of the state. You overtax and you just basically dry up that tax base. And government ultimately isn't given the revenue they need to operate.
We're speaking with Geoff Diehl, who's a representative, currently a state representative from Whitman, but he's running for the United States Senate. Jeff, I appreciate you joining us. Give the folks your website again, so that if they want to reach out to get more information or volunteer to help you out, they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to touch base with everybody who's listening to your show today, Chris, and thanks for having me on. So if you go to DiehlForSenate.com, which is DIEHLFOR, Senate.com, you're going to have a chance to sign up to get email newsletters. You're going to have a chance to link to some websites. I have Facebook page and Twitter accounts. Also volunteer, get free bumper stickers and lawn signs. Also, I have Sean Spicer, the former press secretary, the White House press secretary, coming to Boston on April 12th, so you can go to that website and ask for more information on how you can go to that event. It's going to be really exciting.
That is going to be a great event. Well, Geoff, I really appreciate you making some time for us this morning and for the audience, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a great day. So that was Geoff Diehl. I said, kind of a local guy. Worked at Poyant Signs. Used to tell me, go over to get lunch at Gary's Hot Dog sometimes. So you've probably waited in line with him, or you probably waited in line behind me at Gary's Hot Dogs. But anyway, that's a great opportunity for the show and for you folks. And I did that for you because I know we had some requests to get Geoff on. We'll try to get the other folks who are running as well. Going to take a very quick commercial break. When we get back, we'll go to the phones. If you'd like to join us, it's open phones, 508-996-0500. I'd love to hear from you.